When Stockfish, the world's most powerful chess engine or computer, humiliates Alpha Zero, one of my favorite chess program in this epic and instructive battle of chess. Welcome to another episode of the series Clash of the Titans, where two of the world's most powerful chess engine are up against each other. And in this game, Stockfish or Fishy is playing the white pieces, and Alpha or Alpha Zero is playing with the black pieces. White opens up with 1e4, black respond e5, f4, and we have a classic opening, the King's Gambit. The King's Gambit is popularly known for its sharp and tactical opening. It was popularized during the Romantic era of chess. I remember clearly when I was learning how to play the game, my dad gave me a book about the Cuban world champion and chess master or chess grandmaster Jose Raul Capablanca. One of his game in this book is he was playing the King's Gambit against an older opponent, a chess master, and Capa or Capablanca during that game dominates the board. What fascinates me the most is that when Capa was playing this game, he was only 11 years old. Now, let's continue the game, and black respond with pawn takes pawn. Knight develops to f3, preventing the move queen h4 with a check, and black respond with g5, and white undermines this by pushing the pawn to h4. Game continued with g4, knight hops to e5, and knight f6. Now let me show you a variation. This is a human move. I would like to emphasize that. If in case this human move happens in an actual game, let's say for example 2 moves before knight f6, let's go back to h4. Let's say for example if a human move is played f6, preventing or supporting the pawn on g5. Let's say for example if h takes g, then f can take back the g5 pawn. However, white has a different continuation to this. Knight can now be sacrificed by taking g5, and if f takes g, then queen h5 with a check, and the black king cannot be blocked, or the check cannot be blocked by its king side pieces. Therefore, the king will move to e7, which is the only square available for the king. Now, king e7, queen takes g5 with a check, and if the knight develops and block the check, then e5 wins the game instantly. There's also another variation. Let's say after queen takes g5 with a check, and if the black king decides to go back to e7, then queen h5 again check, which is the only square, king d7, then queen e5 check, threatening to capture the rook on h8, and wins the game as well. That is why knight f6 was played. Now, before knight f6, let's say for example a different move was played, another human move. Let's say like h5, protecting the pawn on g4, which was attacked twice by the knight and the queen. Let's say for example if this move was played, another human move, then the continuation will be bishop c4 and knight h6, d4, dominating the center for white, d6 attacks the knight. Well, the knight has to move to a safer square. f3, g takes f, g takes f, and then queen takes f3, threatening mate in 1 because the pawn on f7 is attacked twice. However, in this position, f7 is still protected with the knight on h6, but after bishop takes knight, then white is threatening mate in 1. Therefore, black response is force, which is queen e7. Now, it will be continued with bishop g5 attacking the queen. The queen has to move, of course. Then knight c3 develops the knight. Knight c6 development. Then knight d5 attacking the f6 square, which result, if not prevented, will result to a royal fork. Therefore, another response by black, which is force, by playing bishop g7. But white can continue the attack with knight f6, bishop takes knight, and queen takes bishop, threatening to capture the rook on h8 and at the same time double attack the knight on h6. Now, in this position, if the human move was played, therefore black can resign because the position is already losing. That is why, being alpha or one of the world's best super or chess computer, did not play all the possible human moves and instead played knight f6. The game continued with bishop c4, d5, attacking the bishop and at the same time challenging the center. E takes d, bishop d6 attacks the knight, d4 further solidifying the center and protecting the knight that was attacked. Knight h5, castle, and black also decides to castle short. And white continue by taking the pawn on f4 with the rook. And let me show you again another variation. If in case the pawn on f4 was captured with a different piece, let's say for example a bishop takes pawn on f4, then queen takes h4 is really strong, and white in this position is in big trouble because the black pieces is now controlling the g3 square. Now, let's say for example if white challenges the queen on h4 by playing queen e1, therefore black can now push the pawn to g3, which is threatening mate in 1. If this will not be prevented by white, therefore well, it will lead to a checkmate in 1. But if in case pawn reaches to g3, then white will be losing a lot of material if you look at the position. That is why, being Stockfish, the world's most powerful chess computer or chess program, played rook takes f4 instead. And the game continued with knight takes rook, bishop takes knight, and f6. Now, before playing f6, let's say for example if instead of playing f6, another human move, which is queen takes h4. Now, queen takes h4 is not the same as this queen takes h4 because the knight is still in h5. Therefore, this queen takes h4 is really strong. While in this position, queen takes h4 will be met with g3, which is very strong for white, and in this position black loses all the counterplay available to him or to the black's king. Therefore the queen in h4 is now useless. You cannot even infiltrate on the semi h open file. Therefore black can now expect trouble in the future if this will happen. Therefore, bishop takes f4 and f6 was played. So knight d3, of course, the knight has to move back to a safer square because it's been under attack. And bishop f5 attacks the knight the second time around, and knight c3, and knight develops to d7. Now let me show you again another or a different variation in case if a different move was played apart from knight d7. Let's say, for example, if bishop takes d3, then queen takes g4 with a check is really strong for white, and black can now expect a lot of trouble coming its way, and I don't think it will last long. I mean, the black king can last long with this position. Anyway, knight d7 was played by alpha, so bishop takes d6, c takes d, and knight f4. Knight b6 attacking the bishop. Bishop retreats. King hides and doesn't want to be caught in the diagonal. Queen f1 protecting the knight. a5. The threat is a4, trapping the bishop, and if white allows the move a4, then the bishop is lost. Therefore, being stockfish, the world's most powerful chess engine, did not allow that and played a4 or played a4 itself. Rook c8, rook e1, controlling the open and only diagonal, file, sorry. So black decides to challenge the strong rook in the open diagonal, and white accepts the challenge by taking the rook with a check. Queen takes rook, knight e6, and if you look at this in the position, the knight is powerfully posted there, because in a similar game in 1985, the World Championship between Garry Kasparov and Karpov, Kasparov played a similar move with this one, and he invented the Octopus Knight. Now, this is an Octopus Knight being posted on enemy territory, and it controls a lot of squares. It influences 8 squares in enemy territories. Like, let's say, let's count it: 1 with all the circles, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Yes, that is why it's called the octopus, because it controls 8 squares in enemy territories, including the center. So it dominates the central squares on the enemy side of the board. It's like the octopus tentacles, like eight squares that's being controlled. Anyway, let's continue the game. And black response was forced. Queen g6. It's now protecting the vulnerable f6 pawn. And white attacks the queen. Queen captured h5, and knight develops and attack the f6 vulnerable pawn by playing knight e4. Black was forced to go back and protect the vulnerable pawn. Now, some of you might wonder, why did black did not capture the knight on uh, e4? Let's say I'll show you a variation which if the knight will be captured by the black bishop. And if this happens, then queen takes f6 check and checkmate will follow. That is why the knight on e4 cannot be captured. So black moves back the queen to g6, and now the knight take the pawn on d6, attacking the rook. Now, once Garry Kasparov had one Octopus Knight during the 1985 game against Karpov. The chess world lost its mind, and in this game, Stockfish had two Octopus Knight. Imagine that, how it controlled 16 squares in enemy territories. Just imagine how many squares it controlled. Two Octopus Knights. So black decided to capture one of those Octopus Knight, and white captured back the bishop. Rook attacks the knight, attacks the Octopus Knight. Pawn advanced to e7. Only one square left for promotion. Rook captures the Octopus Knight. Queen e2 protecting the e pawn. Queen moves back to prevent promotion. Bishop attacks the queen, and the rook moves back to d8, protecting the promotion square. Queen e6, threatening mate in 1. King was forced to move to g7, protecting the pawn, at the same time preventing checkmate. Bishop takes queen, rook takes bishop, queen takes g4 with a check. King f7, queen h5, check. King takes e7, and queen c5 check. Queen f7, king f7, and then queen takes b6, h5, and white continue with king f2, and in this position alpha, or the black pieces, resign. I hope you enjoy the game. Magdinin lang tataman. Hantod sa sunod. Bye for now.